Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rakakwadash, and of course, double honors. Once again, go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders, Great Millstone, who continue to, Holy Spirit, that is, teach us this truth. This is Naaman with the DC camp, and I ran across this article, and, this is something that should have been done a long time ago, and some people tried, I will admit. And what I'm talking about is homeschooling. All right, but first you need to start. You need to establish a foundation. And that foundation, that's what we're out here on the highways and byways, again, through the Holy Spirit, trying to wake our people up and tell them nothing's going to work unless you go through Yahweh or Yahweh Shah first. All right. This also includes knowing who you really are. There's so much power in that, and that's what these enemies of ours have succeeded in keeping us from knowing all this time, and it has worked. But now they're nervous. You see things speeding along. You're following this. I just got through listening to the State of the Union address, Joe Biden, and all the bullshit aside, and that's just what it is. These people see their grip failing, primarily on a good portion of our people, or breaking loose from that spell that they've had over us. All right. So here it is. We have something from Time, and it says for so-called black parents resisting whitewashed history, and that's just what it has always been. Homeschooling is an increasingly popular option. Okay. And you see Jake family here. And this is something that's good to see. You got both the husband and wife and the 4 children. Beautiful image. All right. I just have to get that out. It really is. By contrast, what this devil has put forth is just a single mother and children. All right. Always shaming the father, or trying to. That's his main target, of course, is the Jake man, the Israelite man. And it goes on to say, for Sherry Rohan, it was a social studies lesson that described enslaved people receiving on-the-job training. That's what they're calling it now. Now, for those of you that have been around a little while, you know that in certain states, I know Texas is one, they're trying to get slavery totally out of the school curriculum. And if not that, then they're, what's the expression? As it says here, on the job training, I've heard people say that we were immigrants, we were not, they're trying to alter history by saying that it wasn't that bad, all right? And my thing is, that's what I always call that Holocaust, that so-called Holocaust, all right? It was a blatant, all-out lie, all right? But see, you have to realize that story is there, all right, to try to keep people from realizing, say, wait a minute, those people you've had in bondage for how many centuries? So now you got this thing here, well, 6 million. Hitler, that monster. All right, but once you go into it, you're going to find out it's a bold-faced lie. It always was. All right. It says for Zanetta Lamar, it was the fact that her son was the only black student in his grade. For Andrea Thomas, it was realizing just how little she had learned about black history while attending both public and private schools. Because it's a shame, as we've been telling you. That's the scriptures. It is a shame, all right, to these people, and they want to try to sweep it under the rug or do away with it altogether. But how on the arrogance of these Edomites, these so-called white people. All right, it's like you have a court proceeding, and you'll get up there and you'll have a witness say something, and you'll hear the judge say, strike that from the record. Jury, you are instructed to, in other words, tell them, discount what you heard. You never heard it. You can't do that. All right, it's just you don't have that kind of power. All right, and sure enough, you know who owns all the media outlets. They have controlled the narrative for a good while, and it's slipping away from them. This is something that terrifies them because, again, the truth. All right? He says, I did not want my children to have that same experience as Thomas, who, along with Rohan and Lamar, is now homeschooling their children. So you got to understand, these people don't want to know the truth. They don't want their children to know the truth. They want to live in this society they built on lie on top of lie on top of lie. It's a fairy tale. It's not for us, of course, but off of our backs. You know, this is something that, but again, the truth is going to cut all of that and is cutting all of that. Okay, it says, becoming part of a movement that once was seen as the domain of white conservative families. Again, this is that illusion that they've established, and this, you know, Johnny and Billy and Tiffany, and, you know, they grew up in this world. Oh my God, those Negroes, look at them. Why are they like that? No, it's because of you. It says, I wanted them to have a deeper understanding of history and the flaws within our history. Homeschooling increased nationwide after the pandemic disrupted in-person learning among households with school-aged children. The percentage who reported homeschooling rose from 5.4% in April 2020 to 11.1% in October 2020. All right, the increase was most significant among black families, about 3.3% of whom were homeschooling in spring 2020. By fall 2020, 16.1% were homeschooling. All right, so that's going from 3.3 to 16.1. All right. It says, while this scamdemic was a catalyst, many black parents concerned about racism in schools and frustrated by the prevalence of whitewashed history lessons have also turned to homeschooling as a way to take control of their children's education and give them an unvarnished version of U.S. history. Now, this is only going to go so far because this is still their kingdom. They're in the power seat, so they still have the option to say, well, no, we're not going to accept this or that, and it's bullshit, yes, but you have to realize this while you're going this route. The things you teach, the way you teach them, they can always deem them, say we don't accept this, all right? Null and void, more or less, all right? It says homeschooling has become such a recognized. The thing is, they can do it because this is their shit, all right? Homeschooling has become such a refuge for many families, black families in particular, that they don't have to go to the under-resourced school that they were assigned. It says they have an option where someone can create for them a really positive, nurturing learning environment. The challenges faced by black children in America's public schools are well documented. Black students are disciplined at higher rates than white peers. Districts that serve mostly black and Latino students receive far less funding than those with mostly white students, and that's true. And black students are unlikely to be taught by black educators, as only 7% of public school teachers are black. And that's fallen off over the years because this is something, as I was growing up, you know, but lo and behold, during the 80s, here comes the crack epidemic and the war on the black family, aka the war on drugs. All right, and then you had that big fall off. You had untold generations that, you know, progress was interrupted because what? Fathers were taken out of the house, they were killed, they were locked up for decades, literally. So there goes the family structure. They knew what they were doing. All right. It says on top of that, many school districts are now facing calls to remove books by black authors from school libraries and to restrict how teachers discuss race in the classroom, also known as critical race theory, as they call it. There's nothing theoretical about it. You're just ashamed. Let me get that real quick. You're just ashamed because guess what? Again, you have always feared the truth. This is Habakkuk 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Most High Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee. All right, unto thee. And shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. So just as you cast us in an unfavorable light on purpose, all right, that's not what we're doing here. We're just telling the truth. All right, and Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter, tells you who you're dealing with. All right, these are people that are complete contrary to anything righteous because they are the wicked. Malachi 1, 1st chapter, verses 1 through 4. That's who you're dealing with. The descendants of Jacob's brother Esau, aka the so-called white man. If, continuing on, if you send your child to school and those ideals are there, you have to rescue them in a way. Out of frustration, they realize, you know what? I can do a better job than this. Thomas, whose children ranged from an age from 4 to 12, recalls visiting her daughter's first grade private school classroom for a few years. From a few years ago for a Thanksgiving activity that painted a rosy picture of the relationship between Pilgrims and Native Americans. I thought, oh, I'm doing my child a disservice, she says. That's obviously wrong, and it was. All right, here you have these savages that came over here, and that's just what they were and still are, savages. And in all actuality, these encounters have been written about. I mean, the truth was told. You just have to look it up. All right, how well they treated these savages upon meeting them, how they taught them how to survive, and these savages turned and betrayed them and thereby slaughtered them. All right, because they covetous bastards, greedy bastards that they are, they wanted what they had. And they continue to do these and exhibit this behavior to this day because this is their MO throughout history. All right, and again, this is casting shame on their glory, the truth. All right. It says, since she started teaching her kids at their Richardson, Texas home in 2020, Thomas has used a U.S. history curriculum from Woke Homeschooling, a platform created by Delina Price McFall, who struggled to find a history curriculum she liked when she first began homeschooling 10 years ago. She found that most had a conservative bent, of course, included religious teachings, and leaned heavily on the perspectives of white people within U.S. history. That's why we encourage you at Great Millstone and other Israelite camps that, you know, the like doctrine, you have to establish a foundation. That foundation has to be what? Realizing who you are, knowing who your power is, and that's Yahweh, that's the name of the Most High, and His Son Yahweh Shai. All right. Get into these scriptures, learn how to live by them to the best of your ability. All right. And that's the only way we're going to win this. It is, because as long as you rely on, and let's face it, this is Esau's stuff, this is the so-called white man's system, you're never going to win. All right, you have to come up out, as Micah 2 and 10, Actually, we go to Hebrews, 11th chapter and 13th chapter. All right, we have to look for something better. Primarily, what we lost. All right, Hebrews 11th chapter. All right, around 14th verse. Now we realize that we fucked up. All right, so we're trying to ingratiate ourselves or get back in the good graces of the Most High Yahweh and His Son Yahweh Shai, who serves as the what? Mediator. We have to go through Yahweh Shai first and foremost. So yes, you are to worship Yahweh Shai, the Son. All right. This is and this is what we do. Some people say, practice makes perfect. No, perfect practice makes perfect, because the first one implies that you're just going through the motions. All right. Let's go. This is Judges 5. And let's scroll on down here. It says this is Judges 5 and 11. It says, they that are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water. What is that? Slavery. There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Most High Yahweh. That's Lord in all caps. That's the Most High Yahweh. Even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Most High Yahweh go down to the gates. And that's something else that's been a problem with our people, because when it talks about the gates, it's talking about the leadership in most cases. All right, you have to read it in context. I'm thinking of Jeremiah 14 and 2. It says our gates languish. It's talking about our leadership has languished. All right, those people that were appointed our leaders, which they're not, but these are people that are usually what you would consider tokens. They do our enemy's bidding. And this has been a thing with Israel. This is, part of the history as everything else. All right, when you read the scriptures and get into them. These are sellouts. They have their own interest at heart, not the flock. Mostly another name for them would be, oh my goodness, hirelings. All right, that's what they are. She goes on to say, and I'm going to finish it out here shortly, she said, I got tired of reading about so-called white people. True. White people's experience. It says, you get tired of the same perspective the whole time. True, true, true. She crafted her own curriculum, marking up her children's textbooks, researching alternative readings, removing a lesson involving the Confederate anthem. And that's another thing a lot of our people don't realize, because I grew up in the South, Mid-South. And you have to understand that after the Civil War, there's an expression that says, the South lost the, how am I going to say this? They lost the war, but they won everything else. And that's true. Very early, the turn of the 20th century, the daughters of the Confederacy, they had a big hand in the development of curriculum in the South and teaching of just what went on, and they made it to where you were to feel sorry for the South. All right, and things were altered, of course. They always say, well, the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. Oh, yes, it did. And what is it, the articles of, what is that piece of paper? It tells you expressly that, yeah, that's what it was all about. And of course, it's common sense. But lie upon lie upon lie, and they put it in that curriculum. And of course, this is Esau in general. It has to do with him. It has to be with bigging him up, and that even goes into that book that was decoded in the very early 20th century with Amalek, Russia. Dang it. the oh, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. All right, it gives you all their. It gave you a playbook for what they intended to do and did do. All right, and are still doing. All right. So yeah, that's gonna pretty much do it for this. This is just things that you already know. Um, she goes into briefly George Floyd, and this is something else you have to be careful of because it's amazing. You have to understand our people are being baited. The people that you are protesting are picked by someone else other than yourselves. I just heard a week or two ago there was a woman that was, I think the police tased her. She was pregnant and lost the baby. No one said anything about that. I haven't heard anything about that. But you get somebody like a George Floyd or, who's what's the other one? Garner up in New York. Who, what was he doing? Things that he shouldn't have been doing. In other words, I'm just saying these people, questionable behavior, not talking ill of the dead, but you have to look closely at these people that you're protesting over. All right? Even going back to Trayvon Martin. Well, I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes that people aren't seeing. All right? Again, not speaking ill of the dead, but you have to understand judgment too. These people were doing things that they should not have been doing. All right? And it goes into the history of homeschooling. An early wave of homeschooling in the 70s was driven by left-leaning parents. See, here's another thing you have to understand too. It doesn't matter. They get into I'm glad they phrased it like that. This whole political system, none of this shit over here was meant for us. All right? I don't care if you identify as a Democrat or Republican. They both hate us. They just have different ways of dealing with us. On the left, they give you all the rope you need to hang yourself. And then they talk about you. On the right, they let you know, I don't like you niggers. All right? They're more direct, and you have to understand that these parties earlier on were switched. All right? Because we, coming out of chattel slavery, actually were Republicans. All right? So, yes, a whole lot of history. All right? Whole lot behind this. You just can't say, well, once you get into it, yes, you will get angry. But it's how you use that anger. All right? You don't want to, and that's a problem with our people too. You don't want to get into, come into this and then just burn white hot, and fizzle out quick. No. Okay. Like I said, you have to, scriptures say be angry but sin not. All right? Some people can't handle this. That's another thing you have to realize. It's probably why a whole lot of you are not going to get it. But it goes on to say the number of homeschool students nearly doubled from 1999 to 2016, the most recent year for which data is available, when nearly 1.7 million students were homeschooled. About 3.3% of all students, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. The majority of those students, 59%, were white, 26% were Hispanic, and 8%, the people that need it the most, were black. Now that should tell you something. 8%. Why? Because Jake is still in this world. All right? As it says in Jeremiah, 2nd chapter. All right? Is he a homeborn slave? The answer is yes. Judah is a head tribe. All right? These elites know who we are. And the focus is on keeping the head tribe asleep. All right? But you got to understand the so-called Hispanic are your brothers too. Brothers and sisters too. All right? And that's another thing that's wrong with our people, because you got this, you fed into this black, 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 and there's no such thing, first of all. And you have to understand that skin color is really on the low end when it concerns this. All right. This is a spiritual thing. Yes, color can be an indicator, but that's not necessarily 100% true. All right. Because you got some chocolate Edomites walking around here. When you understand lineage, genealogy, biology 101. All right? It's not that hard. Okay, and I'm going to stop it right there. I think you get the... Okay, well, let me... Skipping down, it says critical race theory is a graduate level academic framework not taught in K through 12. Again, so what are these people so concerned about? It's not being taught to your kids. The thing that they're worried about is the truth of what they've done. All right, they managed to, all these years, downplay it and sugarcoat it, but now the truth is, no, that's not what happened. Yes, you did steal our babies and use them to lure alligators. All right, and thus a lot of the babies were lost. Yeah, they did shit like that. It's not theory, that's a fact. And you have to answer for that. Like it says, scriptures, you're going to get double for what you've done. All right? It says school districts across the country have emphasized it is not being taught in K through 12, like I just said, but it has become a catch-all term among critics who argue that lessons addressing systemic racism will divide children and make white students uncomfortable. So fucking what? We had to sit through that fucking Holocaust bullshit. Make white students, who gives a fuck if they're uncomfortable? I'm uncomfortable every time I go into a room with you motherfuckers. I can't stand you. But is anybody concerned about me? Has anybody been concerned about me? Or of my people? No. It's always, well, we didn't want to make certain people feel uncomfortable. And you get that stupid, retarded, sellout sellout bitch Condoleezza Rice on those interviews she did, talking about sparing white people's feelings and shit. Anyway, I'm gonna end it there. I've gone way too long, but this is a little bit longer than, Hey, so with that, of course, I put this link here in the description box, and you can just read it for yourself. But it's, a little, too little, too late, as they say. Yeah, but this is not the thing you should be studying. It's those scripts. All right. You gotta eat that roll. That's what we do. We're out there trying to get you to eat it. All right. Hey, so with that, shalom.